Thank you to SimThick, accessible via sim.gg for the weapon stats used in making this video. Link in the description. Hello, this is yet another entry into a series I've been calling Final Meta, an exploration into the infantry weapons in Battlefield 5 following its final content release. In this video, I will be covering the M3 Infrared, the Recon class's only suppressed weapon. The M3 Infrared offers an excellent tool for backcap harassment of the enemy team. When it comes to the combat role suggestion, this is a weapon I advise using both the Sniper and Pathfinder combat roles, depending on situation. The primary deciding factor is whether you do not already have your own spawn beacon placed near the enemy team's main spawn, and there are other Recon spawn beacons in place that Pathfinder can currently use that will place you closer than any other spawn option. If these criteria are satisfied, switch to Pathfinder and spawn on friendly spawn beacons. Then place your own spawn beacon in a safe location as quickly as possible. Then seek out an ammo crate and make the rest of the way to the enemy spawn and hide a spawn beacon in that area. The moment you find yourself needing to respawn, assuming your beacon survived, use it to spawn with the Sniper combat role. The M3 Infrared is a weapon that strongly benefits from being deep behind enemy lines. There are a number of reasons for this. Its suppressor, its slow time to kill but high precision and rapid fire rate, and its ability to spot multiple targets for your team without giving away your position in combination with the Sniper combat role. Further, when you have the Sniper role selected, the spotting mechanic also makes it much easier to land follow-up shots, as your target will be lit up with a red dot above their head, helping to mitigate the washed-out grayscale of the M3's scope. Speaking of its scope, the scope does provide decent zoom and a sight picture that is elevated and open, making recoil easy to manage, and it doesn't have scope glint. This is where the strengths of the scope end, however, as the actual infrared nature of the weapon is far more of a hindrance than a benefit, making spotting targets sometimes fairly difficult before you actually land a hit on them to light them up. My gadget suggestions for the M3 Infrared depend on which combat role you are using in conjunction with it. If you are using the Sniper combat role, I suggest Throwing Knife, Doppelschuss, and Spawn Beacon. If you are using the Pathfinder combat role, I suggest switching out the Doppelschuss for the spotting scope. The Throwing Knife uniquely suits the M3 Infrared better than any other Recon primary weapon, with its ability to kill with one hit within typical shotgun ranges, and doing so silently. It makes a great weapon for a lone back capper, as you can ready the weapon as you wait for an enemy to show up when they begin searching for you on a point and quickly and silently take them down, preferably before they can get a shot off, preventing other nearby enemies from as easily detecting you. Smoke grenades are a tempting choice considering the stealthy nature of the M3, but those are better for front lines combat, where you are trying to achieve a quick flank on the enemy. In this case, smoke grenades could also give away your general location to lots of enemies, as it's a more conspicuous visual cover tool. The Doppelschuss and Spotting Scope are both also largely advised because they are less conspicuous spotting tools than the flare gun, though the Spotting Scope becomes somewhat redundant when you have the Sniper combat role with the M3, as you will largely be able to spot people just as quickly and far more safely by simply firing into them with the M3 rather than switching to the scope. And the Doppelschuss can be useful in detecting patrolling enemies on a backcap attempt in close quarters, by sticking its flares to the insides of cover where threats won't be as easily able to see where they came from. My strongly advised melee weapon is the knife. The improved assassination angles of a knife works perfectly for a more stealthy playstyle. Largely as a result of my suggestion of the knife, I suggest the M1911 suppressed as the M3's sidearm. The M1911 can act as a strong close-range stealth tool, as it has excellent ammo reliability and its damage profile meshes well with the knife's front-facing hit attack damage. For upgrade suggestions, I advise right, left, left, resulting in quick aim, recoil buffer, high velocity bullets, and slings and swivels. because you can change the M3 sights to a sight with a shorter aim transition, and the weapon is strongly dependent on longer ranged engagements. A straight buff to aiming speed is more warranted compared to hipfire accuracy. If you find yourself needing hipfire, simply switch to your sidearm instead, and try to rely on it, your knife, and your throwing knives. For the middle set of upgrades, the left side further emphasizes long-ranged combat, whereas the right emphasizes a strafing aggressive build, which is ultimately less useful for a weapon with a suppressor, as you want to largely emphasize flanks and long-range fights. The last upgrade I suggest, Slings and Swivels, is primarily for flanking utility. The ability to raise your weapon faster from a sprint is useful, as you might find yourself sprinting frequently to obtain those flanks. Further, the ability to swap to your M1911 or back to the M3 faster is useful, since you might find yourself needing to transition between engagement ranges frequently. In terms of tactics, the M3 is effectively a very long-range M1A1 carbine for a number of reasons. The suppressors in Battlefield 5 prevent your targets from figuring out your attack angle. This makes the M3's slower time to kill at longer ranges less of a problem, and the farther away you are, the harder it will be for them to determine your location. Its scoped nature and bipod also lend itself to achieving very long-ranged kills. Further, that this gun is found in the Recon class makes it so you can achieve flanks more easily using despawn beacons, and even if you fail to take a target down, as long as you hit them, you will mark them for your teammates to finish off. You should avoid being too aggressive. That isn't to say the M3 Infrared is not capable of aggressive play, but the optimal way to use it is to exploit its stealthier and more precise nature whenever possible to get the most out of it. Fortunately, its relative flexibility makes it about equally effective regardless of the stance you fire it. Its brisk spammability due to fast firing and low recoil allow it to be good on the go, and the bipod can make prone use very effective as well. As for magazine dumping and pre-fire, less due to its good ammo reliability and more due to its ranged and suppressed nature, it doesn't generally hurt to unload your magazine. That said, the more you fire, the more of an audio-visual footprint you leave, and this could potentially lead enemies to eventually deducing your location. If you're fighting a lone target, I'd say it makes more sense to dump ammo aggressively, but if there are lots of targets, be more selective and careful in your approach. Time to kill analysis of the M3 Infrared is the same as that of the M1A1 Carbine, as they both have the exact same stats. The only major difference is which class they are found in, their upgrade trees, and the M3's addition of the infrared scope, suppressor, and bipod. These rifles have a fairly mediocre overall time to kill. Headshots are strongly advised, as they will significantly improve the M3's performance. And with the highly precise and low recoil nature of the gun, this is a very achievable task. In conclusion, the M3 Infrared brings a very potent and unique tactic to the Recon class, and it should not be passed up. It's largely the best weapon for lone back captures, and one of the best weapons for long-term flanking in the game. Its unique combination of abilities and features make it a playstyle all on its own. Thank you for watching my video to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications.